Welcome to the Resiliency of the Human Spirit podcast, where we share all about human triumphs for the collective's healing and empowerment. I am your host, Priscilla Hanley. My guest today is Colleen Lindberg. Colleen is a soul mission activator and spiritual guide. Her mission on Earth is to dismantle the conformity infrastructures holding us back so people can fully embody their potency and power. She believes that each soul mission is a unique rhythm that is meant to ripple through the world. She speaks multiple languages, works with deities like Thoth and the Emerald Tablets, Merlin and Golden Avalon energy, goddesses of Egypt, the Archangels, especially Metatron, and the record keepers of the Akashics. Colleen's light language spiritual album is launching later this year. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Colleen on right now. Hi, Colleen. You look great.
Oh, thank you. It's my Costa Rican vibe. I just call it, it's like the energy of living here in the jungle. You know?
Yeah, I get that. It's like
Yeah.
Mother Nature all around you. That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Like literally the jungle's like right there. I could see it out my window here in my office. It's amazing. I love this place. It's so cool.
Yeah, we'll get into why you moved to Costa Rica a little bit later on, but for now.
Sure.
So we connected a few months ago where you
Mhm.
shared your personal story with me. And I gotta say, Colleen, you had a very intense journey. And I I would so love for you to share your journey from how you started to where you are today with our audience, because I think there's a lot of wisdom in your journey because you have
Mm.
had it hard. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I always say I chose the narrow winding road, to come down into, and then my human consistently kept choosing it. And then a few years ago, I was like, we're not playing this game anymore. We're moving into like grace and ease and like daisy flowers instead. And I always say like I got all the t-shirts, I've won all the awards for like the hardest pathway to get to certain spaces in my life. And it's definitely been a journey, and
Mm,
it's like I don't even know where to even begin, like to even speak into some things. But let me just kind of start with like the spiritual aspect inside. And it was like I was drawn to the spiritual mentor just over 15 years ago now. Like officially spiritual mentor. I believe we have mentors throughout our whole life that we probably don't pay attention to, or that we don't realize that they've come into our space to help assist us in certain ways and to create that imprint in our life. But it was just over 15 years ago that I met my first spiritual mentor who didn't want to work with me because I had a lot of shadow energy in my field and a lot of things stuck in my energetics that all I knew was I needed to see her, and it was like I was working for a mentor at the time who was paying me $1,000 a month to work for him. And this is Canadian. Okay. We're not even talking about US. We're talking about Canadian. So technically it's like $700 US right now a month that he was paying me. And I worked 7 days a week, 18-hour days in his field. And he refused to let me do anything else to make money. He was like, just stay with me. And in a few years from now, you'll reap the rewards. Later on, I found out that he had like kind of had me in like a spell because he saw the potential that I had in life and he wanted to keep me in his grips of things. And she could see all this was transpiring. And in her innateness, she was like, I don't want to deal or work with this, but Spirit said to her, like, she needs your help. Like, we need her activated in the world. She's got a mission to do, and you're one of the keys to help assist her. Like we have like these contracts that we come down to earth with, and that was one of the ones. So did this clearing, and she said to me, look, your whole life is about to change once I clear your energy, and I just need you to be okay with that. And I was like, all I knew is I had to say yes. Like I didn't even know why. I didn't even know what clearings were. Like I wasn't really like, in that space of stuff. And all I said was yes. And then just a few days later, I started to see what was actually happening in my life. Like the veil had been released inside the space. And I don't even know if I told you this story, but the veil had
yes.
been released. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I started seeing life differently. Right. And I started to see like my mentor was manipulating people and gathering all this money from them and investments and hiding it for himself, and he was lying to everybody, and he was even lying to me. He's like, well, I'm only getting paid $2,000 from this project, and then I'm sitting at dinner with his wife and she's like, yeah, he's making like 12,000 a month from that. And I was like, and he just kept like lie after lie inside the space. And it got to a point where I could see it all happening. And then I could see what his energy was for me, and like in the energetics of keeping me small and tight and confined in his world. And imagine trying to live on $1,000 a month. Like my rent was 500, and I was renting a room inside of a house because I had just left my ex-boyfriend. And I was from Winnipeg. I was in Ontario. I had no family, no friends there because everybody in my life was associated to him. And he was a narcissist as well, which is a whole other thing. And it was like I needed a place, and I found what I called my rental parents, and I stayed with them for 3 years in their house, renting a room just to get on my feet. But imagine living on $500 a month, especially in today's economy. Like you can't even buy groceries for the month for that, like for a single person, never mind for anybody else in the world, right? So it's like it was an interesting journey to go through. And when I finally started to like move the energy through and start to believe that I could do something, I ended up walking out of his place. I gave him like 3 weeks notice. I closed up everything that I had. I gave him everything back. I walked out with $40 in my wallet going, I have no idea what I'm about. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I've been an employee my whole life. My parents are employees, and I kept feeling that I needed to start the business. And I did start the business. I had one client that came with me, and I just started to figure it out. Like I started to teach aerobics again and like all this stuff. And it was like, it started to move. And it doesn't mean it was easy. Like there were times that I literally drove to a place to pick up a check because people used to pay in checks back then, to then go try and cash the check. And I used to have holds on my bank account. So I went to like the money mart to try and get the money accessed. And like I would run out of gas in the parking lot just getting there. Like I played that game for a while until I could figure out, how do I really make this work? How do I step into like the flow of divine and abundance and actually start to listen and stop making things so hard? And there was a good 5 years that I, was like up and then back down, up. And I'd be like, why can't I stick in this? And then I started to really do the real work. So yeah, I don't know. There's some stuff in there for sure. You're like,
Yeah, wow. That's why I wanted you to share this story because I think quite a few people can relate because there's a lot of chaos and craziness in the world
oh,
right now.
yeah.
And, I mean, if you don't mind me saying, your world was kind of crazy for a while, right? I
Oh, I
mean,
like it's totally. Like, I will own it. And even some days it's still crazy. And I just look at my life and I'm like, seriously? Like, but yeah, but I know how to get through it differently now. Like I have
yeah.
the tools and assets to see it at least where I'm not knee deep in it like I used to be. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, so yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you were in those difficult times, how was
Mhm.
your emotional well-being and your mental well-being? Were you kind of like, I'm going to get through this one step at a time, or you were like, oh my God, like what's happening right now and kind of like crumbling?
Yeah, so I have a at least I lived then in a very driver hustle energy. So I didn't let it stay on me. I've always believed, and there was something that was just in me that it was like this was temporary. This is temporary. This is temporary. I was a personal development junkie, we'll call me. At the age of 23, I got into alignment with personal development. So books, audios, CDs, like whatever I could get my hands on, I was listening and reading into. So there was always those like little like whispers going on in my brain going, okay, it's just we're going to get through this. We're going to figure it out. 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 And that's how I lived my life. If we fast forward to today, it's like the energy in the collective has changed from 15 years ago, from 10 years ago, from 5 years ago. It even has changed since the beginning of this year to now. And a lot of people are really stuck in this energy in their lives right now because the way we used to do life in the very driven masculine is no longer moving the needle forward like it used to be. So if you're trying to do life like you did 5 years ago, like even me, if I were to drop back into that, let's hustle, let's force, let's move it forward, let's have 500 million meetings a day, let's see what it's not working. It's not working because the new energy that's here that's actually calling us forward in the space is the divine feminine in all of us. It's not just in the women in the world. We all have both divine masculine, divine feminine in us. We have duality in all the ways inside of each soul, each experience, each body. So now, if I were to try and use the tools that I was using then, it wouldn't work. So how we move through some of this now is actually quieting ourselves, is actually coming back into the body. It's actually being with ourselves, is actually surrendering and letting go and releasing our control over some of this, which most of us have no idea how to do, because our whole life we've been over here and we were taught this. You go to school, you get good grades, you work hard, you go get a job. Like the whole mechanism of the matrix of the 3D world is conditioning us since we were little to do this. Even our parents were, when we were young kids, it's like, where are you going to go to school? You're going to get a good job and you're going to make this, and then you're going to have a family. And no knocks to our parents or grandparents. They just didn't know that life could be different. They had no idea. They were playing in their energy in the form of it was now, but it's like, it's different now. So when I come up against challenges, which I do all the time, like even before this podcast, I was telling you, like the dogs went and bathed in a mud puddle. And I'm like, they can't come in the house. I can't leave them out because I don't know what they're going to do out there. And they're going to bark at people and try to eat poisonous toads. Like that's what they do. And like all the things, right? And it's like, I've got 20 minutes before I need to be like here with you, right? And it's like that, some people could see that as a challenge. And it's like, okay, what do I need? Let's go get the hose, get him down, throw him on the towel, don't move. You need to stay there. Put on my shirt, get up. Do I got the speakers on it? My coffee's poured, and making it work. And this is something that though I flow within now, instead of it being like this, like, blah, blah, blah. And some people, this would throw off their whole day, right? So it's like, we've got new assets and tools that we're moving through now. And I know you have a question for that. So I want to because I could tell you so many stories about everything, but please converse with
Yeah. I so agree with you because me included, I was prior military, so I came from that 3D reality of regimented, structured control kind of thing. And now with me running my business, I gotta tell you, there's no structure. I just do whatever I want to do every day, right? Sometimes that's a little bit scary, right?
Yeah.
And so I would just want to acknowledge that there is a lot of fear in the collective right now because the old paradigm, the way we used to do things, like you say, is no longer working and
Mhm.
it's starting to crumble. The whole infrastructure, the old paradigm. So I want to ask you, what would you say to those of us in the collective who are gripped in fear right now and feeling so lost in life and have no idea what to do to move forward?
Yeah, we've got to really come back to the self. So, a couple of tools that we can use inside of this space when this comes up is our breath. So, we don't even realize how potent this mechanism of breathing through the body is for the body. So, when we get grounded and present in our lives, which most of us don't know even how to do because we've been conditioned to keep doing in the world, right? It's like the next thing, we got to go work out, we got to pick up the kids, we got to take them to soccer, we got to do all these things. And it's been set up that way in our lives so that we don't pay attention to the present moment. So we don't connect in with the intuitiveness and the intuitive connections between all of us together and the actual mission on earth. So when this is starting to transpire, we move into fear because we don't know what's going to happen. Where the fear energy is like rampant in the world. It literally is almost like they turn on a smoke machine of fear and it's going through the world. And those of us that are shifting massively and are actually starting to live life in the way we desire to live, like where we're living in the world, who our friends are, what we're listening to, how we want to do life, it's that fear mechanism is coming up because we're like questioning, how can we sustain it? How can we actually do this? Is this truth? Like all the questions that are moving through. So the first thing I always say to everybody that I especially start working with is like, bring in the breath. Let's start to breathe into our bodies. And then when we breathe, we can get grounded into our bodies to actually now start to feel our heart or our intuition or our soul calling us forward to start to lead in the messages of our intuition. But until we're present, we can't. And then when that breath starts to come in, the fear starts to dissipate a bit because we release our shoulders and we go, okay, so fear is a reality. Like I don't want to diminish that for anyone, but it also is an illusion, right? So it's us disconnected from ourselves. So if that is true, and you can play that out in your field to feel out if that is actually truth, then it would be like, okay, what am I really actually scared of? Like, what am I really scared of? Like, not just like the fear the world's going to go down. Are you really scared then that you won't be able to survive? Or that your family won't have enough food to eat? Or this? And now you can start to play in those energies to be like, okay, well, if that is the actual fear, well, I can change that by doing this, or I can change that and shift that by moving this, or I can go and ask for that, you know, in the world. It's like when there's fear, there's also the other side of fear, which is the solution to the fear. So if we start to get into the body and get present, then we can actually move all the energy out. And now we can actually start to ask the real questions that are on our minds, on our hearts, or whatever that is. So yeah.
Yeah, from my spiritual studies, I used to there was a channeler that I used to follow, a well-known channeler, and when she channels the Pleiadians, by the way. And so the Pleiadians said that when there is a problem, right, the problem is at this vibration, but the solution is also existing at the same time as the problem, but the solution is at a higher vibration.
Yeah.
So if we could just raise our vibration, we
Mm-hmm.
can access the solution because we're going to be
Mm-hmm.
at that level. So yeah, I like what you're saying about the breath because I know the breath is our life force energy. I just want
Yeah.
to ask you, can you share maybe one simple technique of how we can bring breath into the body and calm down our nervous system?
Yeah, so like if we're heightened, we obviously are not going to want to do like breath of fires, you know, like, and if you don't know what that is, it's like an intense breath to move energy through, to heal, to pull up stuff from the body. That's not what we want. We want to take in big deep breaths in through the nose and then exhaling out through the mouth. And if you can close your eyes and imagine the breath coming in, so literally see it. You, for those of you that see energy or that might have the gift of visual stimulation, like you can see spirits when you go into meditation or whatever it is, you may see it come in as a color. For the rest of us that don't have that, I want you to feel it moving through your nasal passage and then coming out through the mouth. And the goal is to drop it as deep into the body as you can and pull it up as deep as you can when you exhale. And if you just allow that rhythm, so whatever it is, like I have a capacity to hold my breath, like, and to pull in a lot of air in my lungs. Like I don't know why, but I just do. And so like I'm able to breathe for a long time and exhale for a long time. But if you're in the middle of like feeling panicked, it may be like, and you may have to start with like a quicker breath that way just to get air into your lungs. But the goal is to literally close the eyes, imagine the breath coming in. And then once you get to a place where you're like, whew, can we open up the heart now? Like the heart chakra right in the center. And this is where like our soul resides, our sacred heart temple, our Akashic records, everything is here. This is the connection. And it doesn't phase me that our physical body, the heart, if the heart if the heart collapses in the body, we are no longer alive, because it is literally the mechanism that moves blood through the body, that keeps the body sustained. The same thing with the heart chakra. It's the temple. It holds everything. All the other chakras connect into the heart center. It's all connected through here. And when we lead with this and we start to trust it and we start to open it and work with it and listen to it, then everything starts to shift. That's where the spiritual pathway opens up. That's where our intuition opens up. That's where our mission comes together, all the things.
Nice. I
Yeah.
so love that. I am a big fan of meditation. I do that every day, at least once, sometimes twice. And I gotta say the breath work is really it's really important,
Yeah.
to bring to at least for myself to bring myself back to center. So I
Yes.
would highly recommend, anybody who's feeling off center and having fear in life to really start off with breath work.
Well, it connects us back to ourselves, right? So that's the
Hmm.
thing. When we're in fear, we're usually out of ourselves. We're actually looking at the things happening, and we're disconnected from our own truths, from this power within us to be a sovereign being, to be consciously creating. So when you breathe, you reconnect back into
Right.
you, right? So,
In addition to breath work, I think we also need to make some lifestyle changes, like the food we
oh,
eat. Stop watching the news, right? Like, be conscious of the people you have in your life. If you have
mhm.
people with negativity, you might want to think about whether they're doing any good in your life. I think that energies of these times are just asking us to make a whole bunch of changes,
Yeah. Oh,
like,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
coming back to what you said, the old ways of doing things are no longer working.
They aren't. It's so true. And our body's calling for different nutrient dense foods. Our energy is calling for clearer energy, whether that's in the music you listen to or the people you associate with or how you hang out or your lifestyle choices. Everything's being kind of like cleaned up in the energetic fields if we allow ourselves to move with it. It's when we're resisting those changes that when that chaos and struggle and all that starts to play out and starts to make like escalate in the world. It's like if you're in challenges right now and you're struggling, you are battling against your intuitive pathway, guaranteed. I guarantee you that's exactly what's happening in the space. You're not listening. Things are starting to come through and you're like, I can't do that, or I'm too scared, or all the things, whatever it is. And I honor you. I get it. Sometimes this pathway is scary, like I
Yes.
understand. Like I really do. I understand. But it's like we're being called forward for a reason.
In your bio, you talked about how your mission on Earth is to
Mhm.
dismantle the conformity infrastructures. I'm just curious, how exactly are you doing that?
Yeah.
Assisting us in
Well,
that way.
conversations like this, like where we're breathing truth into people is one of them. A lot of the work that I do is with like what I call lightpreneurs, so light workers in business. And for me, it's about helping them understand their unique frequency, their unique calibration, their unique mission, and building their businesses around that. Because most of us have been taught to stay in the box, to do it like that person, to just be nice, to keep your voice down, to da 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 da. But every single one of us has a truth that moves through us. We brought a certain calibration to the world, and it's our puzzle piece. And it's like when we own our puzzle piece and all of it, our personality, our traits, our value systems, our beliefs, when we pull it in and we're like, here's my piece, and we build a life around the piece that is our piece, then we are like literally lighting up through the beacon of our light to help assist those that we're meant to assist. But it's in these places where we're trying to do it like that, or there's like so many business coaches out there that are trying to get people to build their business just this way. You can't do this, you have to do it this way, and all that, when it's completely opposing to what is actually being called forward of them through their actual soul's mission. So my job on earth, in one of the places that I do this, is to be able to help assist people to understand their uniqueness, to step up fully into that, to take ownership of it. And some days we're the Lone Ranger for a little while until we find other Lone Rangers that are like, I've been looking for you, this jives. And it doesn't take long, because the second you start to lead in this frequency, it's like, boom, the light beam goes out into the world and people find your content, or they see you at an event and they're like, oh, I just loved your energy. Like I could see you walk in the room and I just knew I needed to meet you. And it's like we call them forward. But right now we're still under this like tar almost of conformity of humanity in the 3D system. And that's what we're busting out of right now, is about how I want to live my life, like not just in business, but it's like maybe I don't want to get up until 8 o'clock in the morning, or maybe I do want to get up at 5 and I want to do these practices, or maybe I want to homestead, or maybe I want to homeschool, or all the pieces that goes against the grain of what society wants us to be. And my job is to literally help you ignite that in you so that you can fully step in and take ownership and be confident and have the courage to actually voice it, speak it, live it, and be it in life. So,
Got it.
yeah.
So you do like technically like business coaching? Is that what you term it?
I do, well, it's like a soul mission activation is
Okay.
technically the term that was gifted to me through the universal plane. I do have multiple pockets. So sometimes people are in business. I have like what I call the soul business experience, where I bring spiritual entrepreneurs together and we have like a 6-month portal way. I do one-to-one work in this capacity, but I also have activation portals that I do. So I do shadow work or inner child work, or activating spiritual gifts and their missions on earth work that they may not be in business. They're coming in to activate their soul mission, their calibration, their frequency in the world. And we're removing the stuff that needs to go and helping them accelerate in. So I do both aspects, and I'm supposed to do both. I've had conversations this week even to be like, where are we going? Like, and they're like, we need you in both containers still. And I'm like, okay, so I'm in both containers.
Nice. What does a session with you look like? And do you have like a most profound client success story?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So each person is different, which obviously makes so much sense because everything is unique, right? That's the whole entire mechanism behind my mission, right? So it depends where people are at. So I have one-to-one what I call portal ways, which is a commitment into something, whether it's a timeline commitment or it's a space commitment of something that we're working within. I do have a couple one-off sessions that I do on purpose. I have what I call like a soul blueprint alignment session, which is like a 2 hour deep dive session where we reframe all the things and get into the space of stuff. But I also just recently opened up what I call an activation session, which is you pick the gift, you pick where you want to activate quantum healing, you know, your ability to see, your ability to channel, your ability to, I even activated light language last week. Wherever you want to activate, you can also get a one-off session that way with me as well. Like, so there's ways to play in my fields. Each person is going to be different. So sometimes people message me and they're like, this is what I'm feeling. And I go, hey, consider these two things. And then they get to pick. My job also too is to help ignite your intuition. I want you to know and feel and be confident in the decisions that you make to jump into the world. Like, I don't want you to always have to come to me for the answers, although I'm here to guide and I'm here to support and hold space when we're in containers together. But my job is to get you literally lit up. So if you're lit and I'm like, okay, great, Priscilla's lit, she's doing her thing in the world, we got another one, because your light is lighting all those other lights. So my job is to get you lit if you're supposed to be
Right.
my light, right? So moving through that space. So it just depends. Like, we drop into places. I do past life exploration. We go heal. Like yesterday, we just healed like ancestral lineage for victimhood from all the way back until like thousands of years ago in this woman's timeline, that the victimhood she's been feeling her whole life wasn't even hers. It was a commitment someone made in her ancestral lineage back in the day that's transpired throughout the whole timeline. So like that's the kind of work I do, you know? And it was like, it was really fun because her ancestors were part of the Illuminati. And she's like, I feel like we just created, like, this is where the Illuminati started. And I was like, yeah, my work here on this earth is so vast. And I just love it all the time because I never know what we're coming up against. Right. So it's just like these weird things, but it actually is all energy. Like you said, everything is energy. So if the energy is off somewhere in a timeline, it's leaking in right now. And it may not be yours in this life, but it was yours in that past life, or it was your ancestors that created it. All of it's relevant right now. So it just depends where people are. And most of the time they're messaging me anyways, and we align it together because I can drop in and feel. But yeah.
So since we're talking about your business, where can people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, well, Instagram's my playground. So like, come to Instagram, send me a DM, check out some of the content. I'm very much myself, I just want to say. So if you don't like swearing, I'm probably not your person because I like swear in my posts and I just show up as I am.
Yeah, yes.
That's the mechanism. So, but yeah, come and hang out on Instagram with me and come find me there.
So what's the handle on Instagram?
Yeah, so it's the Colleen Lindberg.
Okay, I'll put all that in the show notes. And so, okay, you have a special gift for our audience today?
Yeah. So we were talking about this, and I was like, oh man, how can I better serve your people with this? So I spoke about light language. And if you don't know what light language is, it's like galactic ancient language, and you can channel it through different deities, and it will be different for the realms that you work within. So let's say I'm channeling dragon energy, it's going to be different than when I channel Hathor, or when I channel energies of the, I know you want to talk about Golden Avalon, when I channel Golden Avalon energy, like the fairy energy, all of it's different. So you tap into the energies of the light language, and it's quantum coding. So it allows us to access and move through the earth veil to access quantum coding to bring in change, activation, clearing, whatever it is we're doing. I use light language in almost every single session that I work within. It shows up in my programs when I'm channeling stuff. Like, it's like a thing that I use and I have been using for years. And so I have this free gift about activating deeper intuitive connections, and it's a light language transmission. So I want to gift it to you guys if you desire to deeply connect in with yourself and you want to do it at quantum speeds. Like, here it comes. So yeah, we'll have the link in the show notes for you guys if you want to grab that. But yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your free gift. And so, yeah, we're talking about your guides and you connecting with so many different beings. So, I am really intrigued with your work with Thoth and the Emerald tablets. Like, how
Mhm.
did you start connecting with Thoth and, what is he saying? Like, what wisdom is he bringing through for us?
Yeah, well, they dropped, like, the Emerald tablets dropped into my life. Like, literally, like, it was like one day, it was like Emerald tablets. I was like, what is this? Like, and literally, like, literally, that's how my life rolls. It's like I hear something, like, it's like, and it's not even a voice, it's like a voice in my head, and it's like, emerald tablets. And I'm like, what are the emerald tablets? You know, and then I go to start to do some research and I'm like, oh, so then I was able to pick up some books and, you know, bring in some energy. And then I started to lean into the energy of the emerald tablets and Thoth. Now there's some stuff moving through the collective right now where I feel he's actually right now teaching discernment. And why I say that too is there's some energies that have been challenging some of the infrastructures that he's brought to the earth plane, that he actually came from ego instead of actually from the light. So I'm knee deep in energetic connection to find the truth that moves within it all. But if we were to speak in to the energy, like purely right now, of what he's bringing to the earth is discernment. How are you listening to yourself and paying attention to your own truth? Every single person on this earth has every single answer to the universe's answers and all the things we would want to know inside of our body. Our DNA is coded with all the ancient history, all of it, everything is here. We've just forgotten about it all, right? And most of us are so scared to actually go in, to actually start to ask these questions, because what if our whole life was an illusion, you know? And like some of us can't swallow that to be like, wow, I can, where I'm like always asking, like dismantling stuff all the time, right? Because that's part of my job. And even this conversation about Thoth, it's like, that's my job, is to be like, okay, so if we're going to dismantle this to go to truth, what does this actually really mean? So he's really leaning in, and the energies are really leaning into us right now for discernment. Who are you listening to, and does it feel right? I have a client of mine who took on a mentor at one point in time over the last year, and she goes, it just felt wrong. And I don't know why. I said yes. And I go, because, you know, FOMO, fear, all the things, da, 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 like that side of the ego. And she was teaching her things that weren't of truth. Like she was telling her to not go meditate in nature because it would open up portals for distortion and shadow energies. I was like, dude, you are nature. Like you
Yeah.
are like birthed from the earth. And so when we started having these conversations, I was like, why did you not trust yourself? Like, why didn't you not trust the call that came in first that said, don't do this? This isn't aligned. And when we bring this up, it's like really starting to listen to the voice. When the voice says no, just trust it. Like, we don't know why. And you may not know why for like a year. But then after the year and it shows up, you're like, oh my God, that's why. Right. And every time, like, this is how I launch things. This is why I go, what are we teaching? What's happening? And they're like, this and do it on this date and this things. And that's how I work. And then I'll get to that date and I'll be like, oh my God, this is perfectly positioned for the planetary alignment. And now I understand why we need to teach this today, because all this is happening in the world. And 3 months ago, when that came through, I didn't know. Like, I didn't go research what will be happening on August 14th, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it's trusting the calling in all the ways. And if anything's coming through the emerald tablet energy, is discernment. Like that's really the energy right now today. Never mind all the other stuff that's associated with it. It's like that's the energy I feel called to like share. So
Wow. So yeah, discernment, that's a big one,
yeah.
right?
Oh, huge.
Yeah, because let me bring up social media. There's so much on
Mhm.
social media, and yeah, social media can be a very powerful tool, but it can
Mhm.
also work the other way where it starts to bring people down because I feel like on social media, people are putting up a front, right?
Right.
Some
Yeah.
people, not all. It's like I have to be a certain way when I'm on camera, and then when I'm off camera, I'm somebody else, right?
Yeah.
But we, the audience that's watching what you're putting on camera, we think like, oh, she's got everything together. She's great,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And then
yeah,
we
for
start to
sure.
feel bad about ourselves because we don't have things together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 It's
So,
yeah, using you like literally when you drop into your heart and you do that breath work and you're present in your body, you'll be able to feel what's aligned. And sometimes mentors drop into our space to teach us some things and then they're meant to come out. You know, that's why I have very short burst packages for specific things that I'm working within, because I'm not usually the lifelong coach you have in your world. Like I do have a client I've been working with for 5 years, but he's more pragmatic and in the blue collar, old Colleen business coaching style. Although over the years, he's moved into a lot of energy work and his verbiage has changed, but he's like, I want you in my life and I don't want you to like leave my world. But that's like that's like not
Right.
common in my space. Like as an activator, it's like, how do I get you in alignment? And maybe every so often you want to peek into my field, like let's do a session to recalibrate, to realign, to do stuff. But it's like, it's very rare I take on clients for a year programs. Like I just don't. It's just not a
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's move to the Merlin and Golden Avalon
Mhm.
energy because I've never heard of this energy before. So what is their purpose or mission to humanity and for the Earth plane at this time?
Yeah, I love this question. So Golden Avalon energy is the time when King Arthur was in like reigning out in Europe. So if you remember the Knights of the Round Table, he had 12 Knights of the Round Table. So Merlin was actually incarnated at this time when this whole entire perspective was actually moving through. And they were in battle with a certain energy called Morgana at the time. So if you ever watch them, oh, I can't remember what the movie's called, but with Nicolas Cage, and they were like these entities and deities that had come back and they were looking for, anyways, like Morgana was actually in this movie. Okay. So like this is where these guys were alive in the space of this thing. Anyways, that's me and my world. But Golden Avalon energy was a time when the fairies were very active. Dragon energy was super active on the earth plane. And Merlin, who is also an alchemist, is in charge of the wizard realm and alchemy inside of the space of this energy. So I work with Merlin a lot in clearing and protection protocols, in transmuting energies, in creating infrastructures and protection that like energies can't get through. So alchemizing energies. So a couple of pieces. The Golden Avalon energy is really, really open right now in Europe, like in parts of the UK, in parts of Ireland, in parts of Scotland. One day I will go to the earth plane there to actually go and experience, because I was incarnated as one of the 12 knights that served the round table for King Arthur. So I know for sure that to be true. So Merlin and I worked together, like literally in the earth plane when I was incarnated at that time. And what was happening in Golden Avalon energy was they were fighting this demonic shadow energy in the space of things. And that was the fight. And that demonic energy kept going into the people, and they were fighting off the people in the space for the light. That's what they were doing inside of the space. So we're at the exact same timeline in what we're working with now. However, the elitists that are in the world right now have separated the energy. It's not just Morgana that was in Golden Avalon. We're working with multiple like shadow energies, multiple lower vibration energies, and they're coming out in all different ways, in all different systems, in all different places of the world, right? So we're seeing this come through. So Merlin is assisting in clearing and protecting energy for those that call him in to their field, for those that use him, for those that activate with him, for those that like literally allow him to come in to sweep energies. I work a lot with the alchemy students too that are tied to his work. So whenever I call them in, it's Merlin and the wizard realm with the students of alchemy. So I literally bring them in together to clear, to sweep, to protect, to do whatever needs to be done. So yeah.
So when you connect with these energies, how do they manifest for you? Do you hear them, see them, feel them? How does that work?
Yeah, all the things. So when I channel, I open up my portal way to see. So I'll close my eyes, I'll call them in, and one thing to note right now in the collective is whenever you're working with any deities, we have to call them in. Well, you don't have to do anything, but it'll be highly suggested that you call them in the purity of their light, like literally saying that. So I calling in Merlin and the wizard realm and the students of alchemy in the purity of their light, because right now we're in distorted energy around, and
Mhm.
some of these deities are playing in their own dualities also on earth in the battles that are happening. So we've got to make sure we keep the energy fields clear. So I literally will close my eyes and I call them in, and I can feel them, I can see them, I know that they're there. Sometimes I'm hearing them, and then they're in the field and I start asking them questions, or I start to put them to work, or whatever it is I'm doing in the space of stuff.
How did your channeling ability like take form? When did you
Yeah.
start channeling and how did that happen for you?
Yeah, well, I've always been channeling my whole life, but I used to, from a human perspective, just say, I feel like we need to do this. Like I was a very pragmatic business coach. That's how I started my business. And it would be like, I feel like we need to get a video up on YouTube that's this, this, and this. And then that video would attract clients or do things. And I never knew that I was channeling at the time. Okay. Like I just thought I have an idea, because that's just what the human wants to think. But officially, I was getting a pedicure done, and the woman who owns the pedicure salon was like doing my toes, and she said to me, "Hey, would you be open to coming here and doing like a workshop?" And I was like, "Yeah, like on business coaching, like goal setting, accountability." She's like, "No, no, no, like that thing where we ask you a question and then you give me an answer." And I was like a psychic? And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, no, I don't do that kind of work." And so one of the hairdressers that worked out of her spa was a good friend of mine, and told her that I do like the side work, the secret work, like I was trained in Akashic records, I was doing past life regressions, I was animal communicating, I was doing mediumship, I was doing all the things on the side and never told people unless I needed case studies. And then I'd find a couple people that would let me own my crazy and get certified. And I have all these certifications of stuff that I took in secrecy that nobody knew about. And so I said no. So, the nail polish is drying. She comes back and she's like, "So can we do it on like August the 25th?" Like she completely ignored me. And then Spirit just said, "You need to do this." And I was like, "Oh, sure. Okay, fine." So I had 3 weeks. So what does anyone do when they think that they can't do something? I look up how to be a psychic online. And then I took all the things. I cut out meat. I cut out dairy. I meditated every day. I stopped drinking alcohol. I did all the things that the internet said in order to hopefully maybe be able to do this, right? So I get to the event, I have a process. Like I literally wrote out notes for stuff I was supposed to do. Like I was like, I had my oils, I had my crystals, I had the sage, I had the incense, like I had it all, right? So I was like, first thing I need to do is clear the room. So I knew I needed to clear the room. So I started to clear the room. And then I never looked at my to-do list after that. And I just literally followed. And people were like, "How do you know the answers to this?" Because I'm like, "You have this picture on your wall that has these hearts and it's above your fireplace." And the woman's like, "How do you know this?" And I'm like, "I don't even know." I don't even know. And then I just started to open up the portal from there. Then from that August, I got booked in September to do it again. And like, it just started to move. And I just started to finally own that this was a thing. And that was in 2021. And in 2022, I fully jumped into business wholeheartedly in the spiritual world because I was still dabbling, trying to still be a pragmatic business coach, and then sort of lean into spirituality when I knew in 2020, like Spirit was like, "You need to fully step into this soul mission activation and own this." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it in next year." I'm like arguing with them and like negotiating. It didn't work. But by 2022, I finally decided to surrender. And then it's been like, here we are now. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
S word, surrender, that's a very scary word for many of us.
it's huge. It
Yeah.
was the hardest thing for me to do. And I feel like it's the hardest thing for humanity because we're used to control and we're used to results by doing, when surrendering is literally going within and watching stuff happen as we be. And it's completely opposing to what we've been taught. So I
Yeah.
get it.
There's a lot of power in surrendering because you're actually telling yourself and telling the universe that you are trusting
Mhm.
that everything's going to be fine. And
Yeah.
the T word, the trust word, is also another difficult thing for humanity, I think.
It all
Yeah.
it all plays together. Like it really does. And there's so much power when we actually do this because we're not just trusting like divine, we're actually trusting ourselves. And most of us don't trust ourselves. And if we
Yeah.
look at that in the world, it's like, wow. But the thing about spirituality is you won't see the results until after you trust. So you've got to, and then it will all align and it'll be more beautiful and more potent and more abundant than you can even think of, because our perception is the limitation.
Hmm.
And when we surrender in, we actually tap in to the actual coding that we're meant to actually live within. And then everything shifts from there. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that Rumi quote. It
Mm.
says, the way appears as you walk it,
Yes.
right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
so
so
true.
true for us. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. The last time we talked about astral traveling. You mentioned that you do a lot of astral traveling. So for those in our audience who don't know what astral traveling is, can you elaborate on what that is? And also, where have you been on your travels and what lessons have you learned from your travels?
Yeah. So we're in a physical form, right? And our soul drops into this body to make it come alive, let's just say, right? The soul is actually the heartbeat of the body, just like the heart pumps the blood in the body. It's the exact same thing, right? So when our soul drops into our body, whether that's in the womb or we come back from astral traveling, the soul can leave the body at any time. It can just leave. And some people call that death, but we don't have to die when the soul leaves. That's a whole other thing. But literally, what happens is most of the time when we're sleeping or going into deep meditative states, we can leave our body. And some of you have done this before without knowing that you were astral traveling. When in meditation, you literally come up through the body, you can see your body down in the earth, and then you go up to wherever you're headed in your experience. That's astral traveling. There's a silver cord that's connected from your physical body to your soul. So the soul can find its way back. But we can effectively go anywhere. We can go to see people on this earth. Like you could literally, when some people say, "Hey, did you come to me in my dreams?" Yeah, I probably astro traveled over to you. Or where you're sitting watching a loved one beside their bed in the hospital, but you're physically not there, but you're with them. And you can even have conversations with people. They feel the energy of you. A lot of the astro traveling I do is to past life information, which is technically happening all at once anyways. It's not really past
Mhm.
life, just another dimension. So I pop into other dimensions. I've gone to other planetary sources to go. Sirius the star is like a really big one, especially for those of us that are aligned Egyptian lineage wise, because of the fact that it's been said a lot of those deities are hanging out over there on that star, especially Hathor and the Star Nation in that space of things. So I've been all over the place. And the key that I've found with astro traveling is that we can actually go back and heal energies, change timelines. So the other day, was it last week? I dropped into a breath work that I was guided to do. And then they said, "We need you to close your eyes, drop into meditation." And then I did. And it was like I got pulled out of my body and I went into this timeline. Literally, I'm watching a scene happen where this man is beating this woman. And I hit pause. I just went pause. And I pull her out of the scene and I bring her to the side and I'm having a conversation with her. I'm like, "Look, you're worth more than this. You do not have to stay in this relationship. You can make a choice right now in the space of time to be able to change this in your life. I'm here to help you. Do you want to make that change?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm just a bit scared." I'm like, "It's okay. I got you." So what happened was we kept it on pause. We grabbed her stuff. We got out of the house. Then I hit play in the scene. So he got back into his timeline. We jumped on a bus and literally took off to another place, finding this man who had this farmhouse, because this is where I was told to bring her. And I said, and she had two kids. So two kids and her on this bus. We find this farmhouse, and the man's like, "I have an extra room. Do you want to come and stay with me?" Because she was like, you could tell she was beaten. And he's like, "I will keep them safe." And I ended up going back to check on her, and like years later in that timeline, and they fell in love, and she found an actual connection and this whole space of stuff, and he took care of them and all the things. And so I've done stuff like this as like a spirit guide almost coming in to help
Mm.
assist changing of timelines. But that was also me in a past life. So I was actually changing my own timeline, and it wasn't
Mm.
even someone else's. I was going to do my own work inside of that space. But we can do this kind of stuff. So it's
I
actually
know.
fun.
It's so fascinating. I have to bring you back on to talk more about that.
Yeah, wherever you want.
So we have like a couple minutes left. So time has just flown by. Time flies when you're having fun. So
Yeah.
I have a signature closing question here that I ask all my guests. And so I'll ask you the question, and you are certainly invited to answer, or you can bring through your friends from the other side to answer. I'm open to
Yeah.
that. So, okay, this is my final question for you. What is your closing message for humanity to help in our collective healing and empowerment?
Mm. It's a great question. So let me while you were like prefacing, I was like, who am I bringing in? They're like the light warriors. So I channel a lot of light warrior energy. And if you can imagine, like almost like Gladiator or, what was that Mel Gibson movie? Braveheart, like that kind of
All
energy
right.
in the space of like this type of energies. Now they come in all different forms and all different deity energies from all different timelines in the space, but they are here to assist humanity right now in moving through the density that we're in to get to the other side of this mission that we're on. If you're here listening to this podcast and you've gotten to this point right now on the podcast, this is also for you. Like this message is for you, channeled directly for you. So if you guys just want to close your eyes for a second, if you're driving, obviously don't do that. But if you have the availability, just close your eyes for a minute. And I just want you to open up your heart. And I want you to just like receive this message in your heart center from the light warriors. And this is what they have to say. You are stronger than what you think. The vibrational energy that moves through you is a frequency that was gifted to you from years and years and years ago. And not just in this life, but it's connected to all lives, to all lifetimes, to wholeness. And as a human on this earth plane, we've forgotten about that. But the more you connect back into your light, back into this vibrancy inside of you, the more you are able to move through this earth experience with grace, with ease, with peace and joy and love, and even through the challenges that move through you and the circumstances that are coming into your field that are maybe creating a troublesome vibration. When you lean back into your light, you're able to move through them easier. It is a duality experience that you're in. However, you don't have to let the duality rule your life. You can be in alignment with the duality. Allow your heart to be seen. Allow yourself to trust in the energy moving through you and to trust yourself as you move through. Courage will be needed at this time. Allow your voice to shine brightly. Allow your truth to come out and allow yourself to be seen, because your light, my friend, is needed in the world. And we are here to assist you today and always in this movement forward. Aho.
Thank you so much to
You're
you and to
welcome.
the Light Warriors. That was amazing and
Yeah.
so appropriate and so relevant for the times that we're living in right now.
Yeah. So cool. I've been saying aho a lot. And I don't know if it's because I'm in Costa Rica or if it's just because it's just coming through, but it's like a blessing almost for all of us together in a gratitude. So it's like great.
So what
Yeah.
does aho mean?
Well, you can look it up online and it'll give you all different kinds of meanings, but I almost feel like it's like a namaste, like I see you, I feel you, like I'm grateful for this connection.
I am so grateful we connected today.
Me
Thank you
too.
so much for sharing your light, your energy, your wisdom with me and with our audience. I am very grateful to have you here today.
Yeah, and thank you for the platform. I love that you're bringing this to life in the world, and it's amazing. So, Priscilla, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. For everybody who's watching and listening, thank you for your time. And until next time, bye for now.